Great. Good evening, everyone. It is 5:30 on June 17th, 2021, and I'd like to call this meeting of the 2020 Redistricting Commission to order. In the interest of public health and safety and pursuant to the Governor's Executive Order N-2920, members of the Redistricting Commission and staff are participating in this meeting by teleconference. In accordance with the Executive Order, the public may view the meeting online, but not in City Council chambers. The city launched a virtual commenting portal, e-comment, that allows residents to comment and participate in the meeting from their own homes. You can find the link to e-comment at www.chulavistaca.gov/virtual-meetings. Your comments must be received before I call for the close of the commenting period in order to be considered. After the commenting period is closed, I will announce a brief pause to allow the commissioners time to read any comments that have been received. If you have difficulty or need assistance with e-comment during the meeting, please call 619-476-2300 and City Clerk staff will assist you. Would the Secretary please call the roll?
Commissioner Andrade?
Present.
Commissioner Kressler? I'm so sorry. Can you unmute yourself?
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Dostal?
Here.
Commissioner Fortner? Commissioner Fortner?
I did see Commissioner Fortner just a moment ago. She may be having technical difficulties.
Okay, Commissioner Juan?
Present.
Commissioner Moreno?
Here.
And Chair Hurtado?
Here.
Commissioner Fortner, are you able to unmute yourself?
Okay, we'll move on. We do have a quorum of the commission. Public comments is a section on the agenda for members of the public to address the commission on items that are not listed on the agenda. I will now call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final public comments. Commissioners, as a reminder, please refresh the view on your screen to ensure that new comments appear.
And Madam Chair, we're having difficulty showing the timer on the screen, but we do have it running in the background. So we'll let you know as soon as the 2 minutes is up. Apologize for the inconvenience there. We have about 30 seconds remaining on the public comment period. And the public comment period is now ended.
Thank you. The commenting period for public comments is now closed. No comments were received. I will move on to item 4.1. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the April 15th, 2021 meeting. Do the commissioners have any questions for staff before we go to public comment? I don't see any. I will now call for the 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments on the item before the commission deliberates. Commissioners, as a reminder, please refresh the view on your screen to ensure new comments appear.
There are about 30 seconds remaining on the public comment period. And the 2 minutes is up, Madam Chair.
Okay, the commenting period for this item is now closed. We did not receive any comments. So at this time, I'll ask if the commissioners have any questions or comments regarding the minutes. And if not, I'll call for a motion to approve the minutes of the April 15th, 2021 meeting. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Can somebody raise their hand?
Lydia Dostal.
Dostal, Commissioner Dostal moves for approval. Do I have a second?
Commissioner Moreno seconds.
Okay, Commissioner Moreno seconds. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Madam Chair, apologize for the formality, but since we are doing a virtual meeting, we'll have to take the votes by roll call. So if you don't mind, we'll call out the commissioners' names to have them vote individually.
Great, I'll ask the secretary to call the roll.
Thank you.
Commissioner Andrade,
Aye.
Commissioner Kressler, Commissioner Dostal,
Aye.
Commissioner Fortner,
Aye.
Commissioner Juan,
Aye.
Commissioner Moreno,
Yes.
and Chair Hurtado.
Yes. Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is item 4.2, a report on updated redistricting timeline. Does the staff have a presentation on this item?
Yes, we do have a brief presentation. Leah will pull it up and display the updated timeline on the screen here. So give us just a moment.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Leah. So here's our updated redistricting timeline. I had emailed the commission last month when we didn't have a meeting with kind of a general timeline of how we expect things to flow. We do have a little bit more updated information on the census data. It looks like we will receive that probably in September. So if we start at the beginning on the far left, today, June 17th, we have on the commission's agenda the consideration of the draft outreach plan and training on the mapping tool. So we have both our outreach consultant and our demographers on the line here to present those two items for you. At the next regular Redistricting Commission meeting, we expect to kick off phase 1 of the outreach campaign. And our next item is the presentation of the outreach work plan. And so Pedro Anaya and his team will go through that in more detail, what that phase 1 means and kind of what's included in that, as well as the next bullet point there, which is ongoing, we'll continue to do community outreach. In late July, early August, the intent is to do some community workshops to have the community involved. Pedro will also cover that in a little bit more detail. At those workshops, we expect that we'll provide the community with some general information about redistricting, start the conversation about what communities of interest are, see if we can get some feedback from the attendees who are at those meetings, and then also do demonstrations of the mapping tools at those so that the community knows how to use those tools and what our kind of ongoing meetings are so that we can keep people engaged. August 19th is the next regular meeting of the commission, where we expect to have those 4 community workshops completed. And then as a commission, you can consider the feedback that was received. Staff will report out at that meeting. September, we expect to receive the census data. The data does have to be received by the state. And then if you recall, the state needs some additional time to process the data before it's available for us to use. So that's probably looking like end of September that we'll have the data available to us. So starting in October and November, the Redistricting Commission will continue to hold meetings to draft the maps. That's probably going to be at least 4 meetings during that time frame, depending on how much time the commission needs to consider the information that they've received and continue to do the community outreach and develop the map, with the goal of presenting the map for City Council approval no later than December 15th. So that's the kind of brief overview of the timeline that we have available for you now, and I'm here and happy to answer any questions that the commission might have.
Do commissioners have any clarifying questions at this time? Can you take? Okay, I do not see any hands raised with the commissioners. So we will allow for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments on this item before the commission deliberates. Commissioners, as a reminder, please refresh the view on your screen to ensure new comments appear.
There are about 30 seconds remaining. And the 2 minutes is up, Madam Chair.
The commenting period for this item is now closed. We did not receive any comments, so I'll ask if the commissioners have any other questions or comments on the timeline. Okay, seeing none. Carrie, would you like us to take action to accept the timeline, or is any action required?
No action is necessary. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We'll move on to item 4.3. The next item on the agenda, report on and consideration of proposed strategic outreach / communications work plan. Does the staff have a presentation on this item?
Yes, Commissioners, it's Ann Steinberger. I'd like to introduce Pedro Anaya and his team to introduce themselves and present the first look for you at our recommended outreach plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann, and thank you, Chair and Commissioners, for allowing us to work on this project with you. We are very excited to move forward and get started. And in fact, we've actually begun a lot of the behind-the-scenes work to begin moving and be ready. So if we could just jump straight into the next slide. So I did want to start, before we get into the actual work plan and our actual goals and kind of the high level points of our plan, I wanted to take a minute and step back. And since it's the first time we meet with you formally, I wanted to introduce some of the key members of our team. But, you know, Southwest Strategies, as some of you may know, was established about 20 years ago here in San Diego. And we quickly have grown into the largest and public affairs firm here in San Diego County.
Pedro?
Yes,
Pedro,
ma'am.
I apologize for interrupting you. The audio is a little bit muffled. It's a little difficult to hear you. Are you able to get a little closer to your microphone, perhaps?
Let me change my microphone.
Thank you very much.
Is that better?
That's much better. Much better. Thank you.
I apologize. For some reason, my computer was picking up my AirPods, which I'm not wearing, so that would tell you why there's a problem there. Okay, so again, let me jump back. I'd like to introduce our team. We're all kind of falling under the flag of Southwest Strategies, established about 20 years ago. We quickly have grown into one of San Diego's largest public affairs firms, and we have our fingers in a lot of major projects throughout San Diego County. Specifically, we've been working in South County on quite a few things, and we worked with the city on the original districting process a few years back, but we also work on a few other projects that you may be familiar with, like SR 11, which is an infrastructure project near the border, and on our freeways here, we work with Sandag and a few other groups. Our company has a deep bench, and so I'm going to introduce some members of our team in a second to you guys, but there's a lot more to our team than this, so where we need to pull from our bench, we will, as necessarily. But we really do consider ourselves and the team we bring forward as South County specialists and experts. Many of us born and raised in Chula Vista. I myself am a lifelong Chula Vista resident with 2 kids in the area. So I'm not only invested as a project manager and will be serving as your project manager, but you know, as a resident, I'm very involved. I literally can poke my head out my window here and see City Hall. So that's how close I am. So I do want to give an opportunity for a few of the members of our team that joined us today to introduce themselves to you, because you will be seeing, hopefully we'll be seeing a lot of them. So I'm going to ask Joanne to go first, followed by Susie, then followed by Melina. So Joanne.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joanne Fields. I'm the Government and Public Relations Director for Imagine Media Group. and we are a Chula Vista-based firm, and we love to collaborate with Southwest Strategies. This is our second round for districting in the city of Chula Vista. I have 4 adult kids who graduated from Otay Ranch High School, also from Southwestern, and starting elementary school at Casillas and then to Rancho Del Rey. So my family, we have roots here. My family, 3 out of my 4 kids are in the military, so I understand the military lifestyle, which has a huge, as you know, we are a military town. I am very connected in the Asian Pacific Islander communities. We host major events like the Pacific Rim Festival, and hopefully we continue to remove COVID-19 restrictions so we can celebrate again here in the city of Chula Vista. I'm also a lifetime member of the NAACP. My kids are Filipino and African American, so diversity is very much a priority, and to make sure that every voice is heard, especially when it comes to districting. We know that resources and representation comes out of the decisions made by all of you. So I'm very proud to be a part of the Southwest Strategies team to ensure that every voice is heard, and that they know that they can make a difference in the redistricting of the city of Chula Vista's council districts. Thank you.
Susie?
Yes, hi, good afternoon, commissioners and city staff. Thank you so much for having us this afternoon. And I'm Susie Villegas, president of SVPR Communications. I specialize in community outreach, stakeholder management, and media relations. I was a resident of the city of Chula Vista for more than 15 years, so I consider Chula Vista my home. As Pedro mentioned before, we were part of the phase 1 of when Chula Vista went through the process of the districting the city. My role this time is to provide support to the team on development and implementation of the public outreach efforts. But at the same time, I'm still very active in Chula Vista. I'm a board member of SHARP Chula Vista Hospital. I'm also a member of the Chula Vista Chamber of Commerce, and I was a board member of the Chula Vista Charitable Foundation for many years. So I'm very active in the community. And again, thank you for having us this afternoon.
Melina.
Hi, everyone. My name is Melina Mesa, and I'm a senior account executive at Southwest Strategies. I grew up here in the South Bay, and have done a lot of work in that area, including a lot of workshops. And I'm going to be doing workshops, logistics, and materials development for the team.
So those are some members of our team. A few other individuals could not join us. Patrick Madden, someone decided to give him a day off today, so we got to respect that a little bit. So he couldn't make it this evening. And then there's a couple other members of our team towards the bottom of our org chart here who are helping us in support details. But the faces you will see the most are Joanne, myself, Susie, and Melina. You'll probably be getting a lot of emails and phone calls from Melina at some point, because as our logistics chair, you will see her quite a bit. Can we go to the next slide so we can jump into the back to the timeline here? So as was mentioned earlier, the timeline, we've kind of been discussing a timeline, and as part of that timeline, what we were trying to indicate and figure out first, what were the entry points for community engagement? And in our discussions back and forth, there's a proposed 2 series of workshops, a phase 1 series of workshop and a phase 2 workshops. And we were trying to find the best optimal time, looking at holidays, looking at people's schedules, looking at availability of facilities, on when these workshops would be, because our role is to ensure that there's participation in whatever effort this commission decides to move forward with. So with the assumption that we would move forward on these workshops, we identified a time period of July 26th through August 7th to schedule the first series of the workshop. And again, based on backing up the timeline from that December 15th date. And the reason this was so key to us in identifying the date first is that would give us an idea of how much time we have for outreach. So assuming that we would be starting sometime around the end of July, that gives us, our team, about a month to not only prepare materials, but begin the process of getting the information out to the community. As much of us, many of us here in this, I want to say in this room, but on this chat or this web webinar here, are maybe all into districting. We also understand that not everyone is as excited or as knowledgeable about districting. So we wanted to see how much time we have. And so we have about 45 days to get people active. So we've done a lot of kind of behind the scenes work to identify some potential dates for these workshops. Our methodology for these workshops had a couple things in mind. First of all, we were looking at geography. We didn't want to have them all in one place. Our recommendation is to spread them out throughout the different communities in Chula Vista, right? So we looked at our current districts and wanted to make sure that each district could house one of these workshops. We looked at facilities that would be large enough if we needed to do any type of social distancing, both formally and even informally for those that are not comfortable, that would be large enough to allow us to spread out. We looked at dates that we didn't want to have every workshop on a Monday night, because let's say an individual worked on a Monday night. So we wanted to spread them out, like maybe one on a Monday, one on a Tuesday. We looked at evenings. We looked at weekends as potential, again, to provide the ability for those that couldn't make it to one could make it to another. We wanted diversity both in geography, dates, times, all of that as we move forward. And so we were able to identify, based on these proposed locations that we mentioned here in each district, we were able to identify some potential dates that we literally were able to confirm hours ago that we would potentially look at. And again, none of this is confirmed, and obviously we're bringing it to you guys to get your feedback, but we're looking at the dates of July 28th, July 29th, July 31st, and August 2nd as potential dates for this. One additional thing on top of this is that one of these meetings, and these are to be in-person meetings, right? And we're together, but we did want to provide at least one meeting that would allow for a virtual opportunity for those that still did not feel comfortable coming out to a meeting. And so one of the proposed locations is City Hall that will allow us to, webcast simultaneously the workshop. So in theory, you almost have like 5 workshops going on if you count the virtual workshop. And as Carrie mentioned earlier, the first workshop would be mainly a brief intro of redistricting, the concept of communities of interest, right? Demonstrating how the mapping tools work and all that, to start getting people engaged in the conversation. The second workshop is a lot more detailed based on maps. So our role would be, can we go to the next slide, please? So our goal is to foster active participation in these workshops and in any tools that exist through our strategic outreach approach. And quite frankly, we have 4 questions that we need to answer to the public as we move forward, right? And those questions are, although we all know these questions because we're handling this, the general public may not have the answer to these questions. And so we have to message this, right? What is redistricting? Why do we have redistricting? Why should I even participate? And at the end of the day, once I get through those 3, how do I even get involved, right? And that's the kind of messaging we need to get out there so that we can draw people in. Next slide. And then we have to get the folks we want to, and I think this is the most important part for me as I look at our team and why we built the team. We did it the way we did is we want to go beyond just putting an email out or an occasional e-blast or an ad. We really thought about this from a grassroots community organizing approach. Ironically, a lot of members of our team have our introduction to community work as community organizers. You know, that's how Joanne and I met, and Melina and others. Is we're at the heart of our work, we're community organizers, and so we bring a multi-dimensional approach to our outreach, where we plan on going out to the community, having real face time, and not just presenting on what's going to happen, but really, I use the term ambassadors, developing ambassadors to help with the outreach. But we're really looking at deputizing a ton of community groups, a ton of individuals to be part of this outreach process. It's not just us. We're really looking at building a coalition of community leaders, stakeholders, gatekeepers, who can go out there and really spread the message about being involved. And then using all those tools that we have, right? Our social networks and you know, things like Nextdoor and working with our community groups. But at the end of the day, it's also reaching out to this very commission and finding out how deep you all want to be involved in that same outreach as well, because we want to provide you with the tools so that you can also participate in that outreach as well. Who better to voice it than the commissioners who are involved in the state on a daily basis? Next slide. And so as we're developing and getting our outreach team ramped up to begin doing presentations and going out to community groups and meeting with folks to try and do that, you know, that organizing model, there's some materials that we've begun to put together internally that will help us. It's kind of our toolkit that will help us work with the community. Obviously, the first thing everyone's going to ask for, or have already started asking for, is, well, we're doing these workshops, how do we get the word out? So we're working on the marketing for that, and that flyer, a redistricting fact sheet that can be shared for, and people can ask, you know, what is redistricting? Well, here it is, a basic fact sheet on it. Frequently asked questions. Having done this once, we kind of have a sense of what kind of questions are being asked, and we want to have that available. Ensuring that there's, you know, people can even just get to these sites. What does public transportation look like to get there if you don't have a vehicle? We want to make sure that everyone has the ability to somehow get to these workshops, even if it's providing bus routes, right? A couple presentation templates, social media collateral, and then working with all the groups to ensure that this information gets out on their e-blast, their newsletters. We know most of our council members have newsletters. We want to provide them the info. Most of our community organizations have a social media presence. We want to provide them info that they can put it out. And then lastly, what are our standard messaging and, you know, talking points? And I'm sorry, I'm talking real fast. I just want to get through all of this because it's quite a bit. But I do want to tell you that we've already secured our translators and interpreters. According to what we have to do, the only language that we technically have to translate into at this point is Spanish. However, for access purposes, we have secured translators and interpreters who can help us based on requests in a few other languages, including Filipino, Vietnamese, and Mandarin, based on requests. So to ensure everyone has access to the information that's being handed out at these meetings. I think I have one more slide. Yep. Final slide. I know I talked through very quickly on this stuff, but I want to be respectful of your time and actually leave it open to if there's any questions or if there's anything else I could add. But that's, if at any time you ever need to reach me, that is my contact information. Literally feel free to reach me day and night. I'm probably awake. So thank you.
Thank you, Pedro, for your presentation, and your team members, Joanne, Susie, and Melina, for taking the time tonight to join us. We'll first, before we go to public comment, I want to allow the commissioners at this time, if you have just clarifying questions, then we'll go to public comment, and then you'll have an opportunity for a more in-depth deliberation. So any clarifying questions at this time? Okay, if not, then we will go for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any. I'm sorry, did I miss somebody?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. That's okay?
Yes.
Pedro, thank you for that. My question is, should there be, and as highly unlikely as this is, should there be any other translation needs that weren't mentioned? Other dialects, other languages that were mentioned. How might you all be kind of addressing those if they do come up?
That's a great question, and we actually just had this discussion a couple of days ago internally. We are fortunate that we've identified a local nonprofit that Special Alliance for African Assistance that does this as a service and can translate into over 110 languages and dialects. And so if the need were to arise, we could reach out to them and secure their services. But we do plan on doing that based on request, not so much like again, we have a limited budget and we have to be real careful here. You know, I could fill the room with every one of the 110 languages, but I don't want to have interpreters sitting in a room not interpreting, right? And so we're going to be very cautious with it. We know that we will definitely have the priority languages there, but we're also available in case the request is made. The other thing I did not mention is that we are planning for ASL as well for accessibility purposes.
Chair Hurtado, I did have a couple of more things I wanted to add. And I could talk during the 2-minute period, or I could add it now, whatever you like.
Go ahead and add it.
Okay, so as you know, Chair, as part of our briefing to you last week, we talked about the 4 initial meetings in our city facilities, and we did just get that confirmed. Actually, we have a variety of dates available, but I wanted the group to know that we had talked about July 28th in council chambers being our kickoff meeting, and it would be actually in addition to your July meeting, this kickoff workshop would be a commission meeting, a noticed commission meeting, where all of the commissioners would be invited to participate. We would at least want a quorum. For your information, and I believe Carrie may have presented this at an earlier meeting, but some of our requirements for redistricting is there are official noticing requirements, workshop requirements, public access requirements. And so some of these meetings are, it does require it to be a commission meeting. So we will use these as one of our official commission meetings to be the kickoff of phase 1 in council chambers, which would be people would have the option, as Pedro described, for in-person, or we will broadcast it live, webcast it live, and we'll tape it. So then it would always be available for residents as well. They'd be able to watch it going forward. And then the other 3 meetings where we have several options, as Pedro said, we did look at various recreation facilities to have these meetings. Those meetings, we would invite commissioners to join us as they're able. So we would have at least one commissioner to welcome the group, and then we do the outreach presentation and engage with the community in providing initial input. So I did want to share that as well, that we're looking at July 28th for the big kickoff as an official commission meeting, and then the remaining 3 in the other district communities would be just regular noticed meetings. So that can be part of the discussion and questions as well.
Okay, clarifying questions before we'll do deliberations after the public comment. Commissioner Dostal?
Thank you. I just had another question about the languages. So the 4 languages you mentioned, does that mean that the written materials are going to be in those 4 languages also?
Yes, that actually will happen immediately, as every document will be created 5 times. Every piece that we're putting together will be in each of those languages. So we've secured those translators to begin that work already. So as we're going out into communities, you know, for example, as let's say Joanne is going out to visit members of our Filipino community, she'll have materials in those languages as well, right? So we see that as a valuable tool to start getting people in the door. And one thing that I didn't mention is, you know, our role in all of this is really getting people to that door, right? And then letting the commission and our demographer consultant and others, you know, feed them the information. So we want to get them as much as we can outside the door to get them there. So we really value doing it in multiple languages to be able to do that.
Great, thank you.
Okay, I will now call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments on the item before the commission deliberates. Commissioners, as a reminder, please refresh the view on your screen to ensure the comments appear.
There are about 30 seconds left on the comment period. The 2 minutes is up, Madam Chair.
The commenting period for this item is now closed. We did not receive any comments. So at this time, I'll open it up for commissioners, any comments or questions on the plan that has been submitted. Before I take the comments from the other commissioners, I will say that I've already had this discussion with the staff and with Pedro. For that first phase of public meetings and that meeting on the 28th, I will be out of town for pretty much for about a month during the summer. So hopefully Commissioner Dostal will be available to chair whatever meetings I have to miss. But let me get that out on the table early so there's no surprises, and make sure that we do have a quorum. I know other people are probably anxious to take vacations this year. But let me open it up for any additional comments, concerns, questions that other commissioners have regarding the outreach plan that's been submitted. I am not seeing any from the commission. So I do not believe, Carrie, that we need to take action.
We do have it listed on the agenda as approving the plan. So if the commission would like to take action to approve the plan that has been submitted to them.
I'll entertain a motion for approval of the plan. And if you could raise your hand, that would be easier for me to see you. And I'll be glad to call on you. So motion for approval or acceptance. Commissioner Dostal?
Really quick, before we move forward, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
I was going to have, sorry if I'm a little spotty, by the way, my Wi-Fi can be like that, but Pedro, I had a question. In terms of holding meetings, would it be possible to consider adding an additional location to districts 1 and 3 because the geographic area is so large? So that way more people can attend a location that's closer to them. So for example, I looked at District 1. Y'all can still hear me, right? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I looked at District 1 and that location was at Salt Creek Recreation Center. I think it's a great location, but I also noticed how east it is in comparison to the other side of District 1. And that is because it's larger. So I was just wondering if you all have considered potentially adding another location for the western side of District 1 and then likewise for District 3 because it's also large. So that's my question.
Great question. And we, that's something we played with in the sense of, what is too many meetings? What's too little meetings? How can we spread this out again for accessibility purposes? And I will tell you from our first time around when we did the original districting, we did something very similar, even though we didn't have districts at the time. We split up into 4 quadrants, which, kind of matches up with what ended up being our maps, right? And we got significant attendance, so much so that we had venues, like the Otay Ranch Library that's located at Otay Ranch Mall, we could no longer use because we were over capacity. So we were able to have people, but I'm sure not everyone could make it to your point. And I'm gonna have to defer, I think, to Ann and Carrie on this. We could probably set up a ton of meetings, but there is some cost associated with multiple and additional meetings. I know from our end that stretches us pretty thin. And so I have to defer to the city to approve anything larger because from a logistics standpoint, there's cost. From a venue standpoint, there's cost. And all those things. So I'm not sure how that would play out. So I defer to the city on that.
Yeah, I'll tag team with you on this, Pedro. And like Pedro said, we did consider, the 4 quadrants, the 4 districts. And since we promote them all together, we don't, piecemeal it out. People, yes, the areas can be large, but there will still be 4 locations over several days, including a Saturday, where people could join us. So I definitely understand what you're saying, but we did get good participation the first time around. And I think coming back from the pandemic, you know, by having the virtual option, people are getting used to joining us virtually as well. So I think with that, we will have the opportunity for people to join us as they're able, and also the opportunity to participate virtually as they are able. And that's not the only place we take the comments. You know, the portals will be open on the website for people to keep submitting. So I think there will be opportunities for people to understand what it's all about and submit their comments in this first phase of outreach.
And just in case it wasn't clear, you don't have to go to the meeting in your particular district, right? You could end up going to another district based on availability. So, and then the other thing is that the information that's presented at one will be, you know, pretty much the same information at each one. So, ironically, at our last series, we had some groupies who decided to attend every workshop, even though they were the same. So we may have some of those. We might have some districting groupies out there still.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Dostal?
And I just wanted to clarify, the one at City Hall you said would be recorded, right, and available?
Correct. It'll be broadcast on our public access television station, webcast on our city website, and then, yes, recorded as well. And then the link will be on the website.
Okay, I believe Commissioner Dostal, you moved approval of this item, so I do need a second. Someone would raise their hand. Commissioner Juan, is that a second on your part?
Yes.
And I'll ask the secretary to do the roll call.
Commissioner Andrade,
Aye.
Commissioner Kressler,
Aye.
Commissioner Dostal,
Aye.
Commissioner Fortner,
Aye.
Commissioner Juan,
Aye.
Commissioner Moreno,
I'll abstain since I don't know what we're sorry.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Moreno, your audio was a little bit low. Do you mind maybe moving closer to your microphone?
Hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I'm abstaining due because I wasn't really, I had technical issues and I didn't know what was going on. So we're working on anything like that. So I'm abstaining from the vote.
Thank you. Chair Hurtado.
Yes. Yeah. So the motion passes with one abstention. The next item on the agenda, before I move on, thank you very much, Southwest Strategies team, and thank you for taking the time this evening. So let me move on to item 4.4, presentation and mapping tool training by National Demographics Corporation. And I believe the staff does have a presentation on this item.
Yes, we do. Thank you, Madam Chair. We have on the line with us Shannon Kelly and Justin Leavitt, both from NDC. So we're going to turn a presentation over to Justin, and he will show us the mapping tool that people will be able to use.
Thank you, and I'm just going to get the tools pulled up here. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. Thank you for having us, members of the committee, members of the public who are listening. And what I want to start by kind of saying is that we want to make sure that everybody has the chance to participate and feel like they can comment and use the resources that we're making available at their own level, at their level of technological familiarity, at their level that they want to engage in the process. And so, you know, there's not just a single tool. There are many different tools that we're going to be offering as part of the process in order to make sure that we're meeting people at the level that they want to engage in. And so I just wanted to start by saying that because we want to emphasize that the commission, that we as your demographers want to hear from everyone, whether they are simply submitting a comment in writing or coming to a meeting and verbally, all the way to the other end of drawing their own map block by block. And so what we're going to be showing you here today is some of the varieties of tools that we are in the process of preparing for Chula Vista that we will have ready for the presentation at the workshops in July. And so I kind of want to start with, you know, I guess say an order of complexity. And so for those who want something very simple and something that they can do even in the space of a single meeting, what we plan on doing is offering people sort of a one-page kit, as we call it, a one-page map. And we'll have this available in all of the languages that your outreach team discussed earlier. But the essence of it is that the city will divide the city up into small units of, you know, in the range, you know, and we're looking at the city of Orange here, which is slightly smaller than Chula Vista, but ranges of around 1,000 to 1,500 people. And then what you can do is you can draw right on this. We see a lot of people at the meetings get out their calculators or get out their phones with the calculators just to try to add them together, come up with something right then and there. This is something that we find is very powerful, even though it's really simple, because people can take it home with them from the meeting. People can write on it. People can point to things, and it's a great tool for getting the conversation started at an event, particularly one where internet is limited. And we can make this easily available in English, Spanish, and other languages. So it's something that's really easy to translate. And it's sort of the basics. For people who want one step above, what we can offer you, what we'll be able to offer you is, let me pull this up here, is basically the ability to have an Excel sheet that automatically calculates it all up for you. So what this Excel sheet will do is link right back to that PDF. And instead of having to just manually do it on a calculator, you'll be able to enter which district you want different areas in, and it will automatically calculate for you. And as you go through the process, this is like one step up. You know, people who are familiar with Excel or who have a basic spreadsheet program, even on their phone, will be able to do this and make sure that their numbers are correct when they submit it. This is something we can also, people can print out, and we can look at creating printed copies of this. And as this is an Excel sheet, we can also have this available in every language and at the meetings itself, as well as being available online. And now for people who want something a little bit more complicated, one of the things that we're looking at this year is a new program called District R. Now, District R was created here to be a tool for people to draw their communities of interest. Now, I'm showing you Sacramento County because this is literally the first one that District R has ever created. We're in the process of getting this up and running for Chula Vista, but it will work the same way. And in the demos at the workshops, we'll be able to show you with Chula Vista itself. But to give you a sense, what this allows you to do is you can go, when you log in, you get this basic map of the county or the city. It will be a map of Chula Vista. And you can zoom in to an area. And using the little brush tool, you can literally paint the neighborhood or community that you want. I'm just holding down my left mouse key and selecting a handful of census blocks. And if that looks like it takes a long time, I could also change the brush size to make it a little bit bigger. And then instead of selecting one block, I can select a few at a time. As this is going on, I can see what the population of that neighborhood is. And I can also rename it. I can call it, you know, whatever I want to call it. And I can give, most importantly, a description of what this community is. Now, as you can kind of see here, it just gives you the population. It doesn't give you any percentages or numbers doesn't tell you much in the way of demographics, but the District R tool is a very simple and straightforward tool to use. I can just kind of paint on a map where my communities are. And one thing you can do with this tool is you can have overlapping communities. So let's say I have 2 neighborhoods, but I also want to have a street corridor. District R allows me to do that. I can overlap neighborhoods because we know in many of these communities, there will be overlapping communities of interest. For example, you might have a large neighborhood, like the East Lake neighborhood, that also has subdivisions, and you might want to know a particular smaller community within a larger community. And the District R tool really lets you do that. You can create as many communities as you want. If there's a limit, we haven't found it. And we challenge you to do that as you are drawing in your communities. The other advantage this has is you can just draw one community and be done. This is the neighborhood that I really want the city to focus on. There's no pressure in this tool to draw the entire city. And that's one of the things we actually really like about this, because oftentimes what we'll see is people say, oh no, I'm not gonna do the full thing because I don't know the rest of the city. I don't know how to talk about lines in a neighborhood that I don't live in. And so this District R tool makes it really easy. You can do one community and you can be done. Once you've finished painting, and typed in your descriptions of the different communities, all you have to do is submit, and you can basically submit the plan, you can print this as a PDF and bring it in, or you can export it just in this little toolbar here and send it directly to the city. Unfortunately, because this is a software program essentially, we don't have control over all of the different languages that this is available in. However, our plan is to work with your outreach team on translating sort of one-page guides on how to use it so that people, even if they don't speak English or the languages that this is eventually available in, we'll be able to give them a guide in their language so that they can recognize how to use it, recognize the right buttons and what they mean. And then lastly, we are looking at a fourth one. It's called Maptitude Online Redistricting, and it's perhaps the most powerful of them all. What it allows you to do is to use an online version of the same software that us as demographers use when we're drawing maps. And this lets you go block by block. And I'll just show you a slight example here. Picking the census blocks you want for your district. And you can see all of the demographic data as we do. So not just the total population, but if you want to know where the renters are and how many people there are who have children at home or who speak Asian languages. This program has all of the information about the detailed demographics of the city. It's a little bit more complicated to use than the others, I won't lie, but that's because it's more powerful. And so, this is a program that you'll play with for a little bit to get used to it. But eventually, once you get the hang of it, you will be able to, basically draw the same kind of map that we would draw on the back end. And the way it works is once you create a new plan, and I'll just go to the starting line. You start with this plan manager, and you start by creating a new plan. And you'll start with a blank map. Or we'll have the current city council districts. We'll have those two options for you to start from. If you start with a blank map, like I'm doing now, you get a blank map. You get to start drawing the districts from the beginning the way you want. If you start with the current city council districts, you'll see the 4 current districts on your map, and you'll be able to adjust or tinker with that as your starting point. Members of the community can also share their maps on this tool. So if they want to share a starting point, others can then use it as a starting point for their own maps. So just to give you, just to show you a little bit of how this works, and I'll say is at the workshops, we will have time where we can actually help people individually with their own maps. And we'll have a much more formal or informal, I should say, informal setting where we can actually work with you on the creation of your own map. But just to kind of show you the basics, what you'll do is you'll set either a new district or modifying the district that you want to change. And then you'll use the tools. You can point and click to get one block. You can draw a circle, or you can draw a shape, and it'll get all the blocks that touch that shape. Once you have your blocks and you can see the populations changing in your changes menu as you do it, you just hit the checkbox and you can give the district a number. I just called it 1 to be simple and straightforward. And it shows up right in front of you with the district number and the deviation. How many people or what percentage of a district? We have currently about 15% of a district here. How many people you would need to add in order to make it a full district. Like I said, this is very powerful. You can find unassigned areas. You can check for contiguity to make sure that all the districts touches each other. You can run information on compactness. It can give you a little table that says how compact your district is. And so these are all things that make it very useful and detailed. In addition, you can also change the color scheme. So you can see where people who earn incomes of $75,000 or more live. You can look at where renters versus owners live, like where do people rent rather than own. You can also look at where Latinos, African Americans, Asian Americans live throughout the city. It really offers a lot of detailed demographic information that can help you in drawing the plan. Once you are ready to go and you've done it, and also, you can do one district in this map as well. So don't feel like you have to do the entire map just because there's a lot of unassigned area does not mean that we will not draw it in. We will draw in everything we receive from a 1 district map all the way up to the 4 full district maps. And when you're done, if you want other people to see it and other people to use it as a template for their own maps, you can share the plan with others. But if you want to make sure that we get it and that the commission sees it as one of the maps to evaluate, don't go to share, you go to submit. And when you submit the map, it won't let me submit this because my district's not complete, but once you get to the point where you have your complete district, when you hit submit, you'll be able to type in the name of the plan that you want to call it. You'll be able to type in some information that provides us and the community with an understanding of what your intent of the map was. One of our strongest and I guess one of our most basic feelings is that a redistricting project is most successful when it's actually a community map that becomes adopted at the end of the day, or that the final map has or starts with a community-driven map. And so this kind of tool, Maptitude for Online in particular, offers you that opportunity to do that fine detailed tinkering at the edges. As we move through the process, our hope will be that people will be able to return to the Maptitude for Online software, play with some of the Commission's preferred maps as we move into the stage where we're revising maps, to be able to see what the options are and what the effects of moving blocks or moving neighborhoods is at the creation of that map. This is a very powerful tool, and in fact, what we have already and what we're planning on doing ourselves is creating one-page or even video guides to how to use this tool in multiple languages. It does have automatic translation into Spanish, Portuguese, Vietnamese, Korean, and Japanese. So you can basically select a different language, and it'll automatically translate all of the tools and menus for you, for example, here into Vietnamese. But we are looking at making sure we get these one-page guides on how to use it, kind of overview sheets for people to reference while they're using it, translated into other languages, and we'll work with your outreach team to make sure that it's widely available as well. And what I've given you today is an overview of our line drawing tools. In addition, we will also have a tool, or we will also have basically a web application that will allow you to view all of the maps as well. So as we get new maps coming in from members of the public, they'll all be available to view on one online source, in addition to the PDF and printed maps that will be available throughout the process as well. So I know this is a lot of information, a lot of different tools, and I look forward to be able to showing you the ones that are specific for Chula Vista. But I hope that gives you a good idea of the kinds of different tools we plan on using in the process. And like just to reiterate what I started with, it doesn't matter what where your technological comfort level is. We want to meet you where you are. Part of what we want to do at the workshops is to be able to work one-on-one with you. If you're struggling to use one of the tools, come to the workshop. We'll sit down with you and help you get started with it. And if technology is not the option, we still have the paper. We still have paper maps and paper options available for you as well. And so please let us know what we can do to help you and give you the tools that you need to draw the best districts possible for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. So just for clarification, I know it's a reiteration. So at all of the public workshops, there will be a representative of NDC present. So for example, if I use your online Maptitude, but I run into some issues. So if I come to a public meeting and say, okay, I got this, but I'm having trouble with something else, I want to include this entire community of interest, I'm having trouble, you all will be present at those community meetings if someone wants some additional assistance. Not that I would expect 1,000 people to line up for you to help them with each of their individual maps, but that technical assistance at least will be present at the community meetings. I just want to reiterate that.
Absolutely. And that is actually, there may even be both Shannon and myself at some of these meetings to make sure we have enough people. And we also will have an email address that people can reach us as well. I know sometimes tech questions come up as you're working on it, and if you email us, we will respond. We'll respond pretty quickly. I know a lot of the people that I have helped are just confused about where a button is, or confused about like where something they're looking for goes. And so hopefully our training materials, our one-page guides will be enough, but if not, we will have email, we'll have people at the meetings to help you take advantage of the power of these tools.
Right. So at this point, we can ask for clarifying questions before we get into any in-depth deliberations. So for clarifying questions, I saw Commissioner Dostal.
Thank you. So at what point do these tools become available? Is it before we get the data, or?
Yes, in fact, we're hoping to have the tools up in the next week or two, or at least available in the next week or two. And we will, of course, want to make sure that we can have them all translated and ready to go for those meetings in late July and August. The reason why we're doing this early and we're using the data, the estimated data, is because the conversation that we want to have right now focuses on what the neighborhoods and communities are. And to a large degree, the population numbers, we have an estimate, we have an idea of what they are. And so we need to start having that conversation that's tied to more, what are the communities? Not just how many people are we talking about, but what are the neighborhoods? What are the new changes? What works and what doesn't work about the current districts? And then once we get population numbers, the tools will be updated, of course, and we can have that technical conversation about, well, we have this many people here and that many people there. But that doesn't change where the communities are. And so it's nice, it would be nice if people can start thinking about that, not just, I need to get to 50,000, how do I do it? But, well, this is a really, the Washington High area is a really important area to keep together. This is the definition. This is where I think that neighborhood is.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other clarifying questions, Commissioner Juan?
Just a real quick one. So the web app that you were talking about, Justin, that sounds like it's going to incorporate all maps from all 4 different tools, correct?
So we will have, yes, so we will have a viewing map, and we will have a viewer, is what we call it, where you will be able to see all of the plans that are submitted on all of the different tools.
Any other clarifying
Justin?
questions?
This is Shannon Kelly. Let me just add one point. One of the roles of us as the demographers is once we've collected through the different tools a wide variety of maps, at some point there needs to be some synthesis of those. So you're going to get a presentation that will include, you know, every map that is officially submitted. But part of what the job that we play is to kind of synthesize whether it comes in on paper or it comes in the very simple District R tool, or it comes in a sophisticated format, to kind of group and synthesize maps so they can be presented to you in a way that you guys can at least try to understand them and act upon them somewhat grouped. So that will be our role behind the scenes.
Yeah, so you won't get overwhelmed, but we want to make sure that you do have every map available to look at some point.
So for example, if there's 5 maps that divide up downtown, you'll say these 5 maps divide downtown. These 5 maps keep downtown intact. That sort of grouping for people to look at that might have other nuances.
Correct. Emerging themes, basically. Correct.
Any other clarifying questions before I go to public comment? Commissioner Moreno?
Yes. How long will this tool, I guess, be open, and is there a deadline, or when is it closing for the public and for us, as far as is there a time frame or anything like that?
So we will have deadlines in terms of if maps have to be received by a certain date in order to be shown at a particular commission work meeting. And that's set in state law. State law requires that there's a certain lead time, 7 days before a hearing at which they're discussed. However, the tools will continue to be available. And so throughout the process, even if people can't submit maps anymore, they can still use the tools to play around with the maps. So maybe, for example, you don't have a map that you've submitted, but you want to look to see what the effect of moving this community would be, just so you would go into the meeting with that knowledge. The tool will still be available for you to do that. We just can't show it as a new map at that point.
Okay, I think we're ready to go to public comment. So I will now call for the 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments on the item before commission deliberates. Commissioners, as a reminder, please refresh the view on your screen to ensure that comments appear.
We have about 30 seconds left on our 2-minute timer. And the 2 minutes has expired, Madam Chair.
The commenting period for this item is now closed. There were no comments received. I'm beginning to think that there's no one out there ever watching one of our commission meetings. But be that as it may, no comments. So at this time, I'll open it up. If there are any additional comments or questions from the commissioners or staff regarding the presentation by NDC. I don't see any. So I want to thank Justin and Shannon for joining us this evening. And I'm sure we're going to have a lot of questions when we get into the meetings and the actual utilization of the tools. So thank you for that overview. This is not an action item. So we'll move on to the next items on the agenda, other business, and starting with staff comments.
Just a reminder from me that if you haven't turned in your communication disclosure forms, if you could please submit those. And that's all the comments that I have. Anne, did you have any comments to add this evening? No. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carrie. I just want to thank everyone for being at the meeting and continuing to be patient through this process. I hear a rumor that we might actually meet in person at some point. So that will be refreshing definitely for me after this long period. So thank you all very much. I'll open it up if any commissioners have any comments. Commissioner Juan?
Yeah, so and understanding what Ann said earlier, so we will have our commission meeting on July 28th as part of the kickoff.
Well, my understanding, and I'll have staff correct me, there will be the regular commission meeting and then a special meeting on the 28th, which will serve as the kickoff for the public meetings. Correct,
Okay.
Ann?
Yes, that's correct. So
Both,
two
okay.
commission meetings in July.
In July.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other comments from commissioners? Commissioner Dostal?
I just had a question for you, Chair Hurtado. Do you have specific dates already that you know you're not going to be here, or?
Yes,
Okay.
I will be gone for an entire month. And since I'm retired and I've looked forward to this for many, many years, I will be at the Central Coast, so it's not an easy return back. So yes, I will chat with you before that so that staff is wonderful about preparing scripts. So I know that you will do well handling any meeting that I miss.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, well, I guess this meeting is adjourned at 6:51 p.m. And I will look forward to seeing everyone at the July 15th meeting of the Redistricting Commission. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye now.